Okay, and welcome everybody to the Turtle and Crow Show, and I hope that my sound is coming out okay. Having a little bit of issues today, so Gaz is going to be handling the buttons. But anyway, today's show is crying and gnashing of teeth, and we're going to take you to both sides. We know what, if you haven't figured out what today's show is going to be about, well, you'll find out soon enough. But it has to do with the biggest story to break in this country. And we're going to handle both sides of this. So, look, we're going to bring you the facts. Some of you might not like what we say. That's okay. But stick around till the end because it's not one-sided. We're going to show you both sides. We're going to take you down a road of truth so that hopefully we can clarify things. Some bad things have happened. Some things have been done that were not justified, that were not right. Doesn't mean that everybody is innocent and that everything is hunky-dory. So this is what we want to talk about today because we think it's important. We're not going to step away from these issues just because it might offend some. And because that's not what it's about. It's about bringing us together, and we connect the dots. And we've talked about what we're going to share with you many times in the past. And so today we think that with what's been done, what's been shown, with everything that's going on in our government, that we can show you clearly that we think we were very right with what we figured out was going on before. And this is going to, if you stick around with us, if you just stick with us and don't let your emotions grab a hold of you, just listen, we think that we might find a way to bury all of this anger and hate and rhetoric and finally find a way forward. So that's why we're doing this. That's the only reason we're doing this. And and we've never ever, have we, sis? We've never backed away from controversial stuff before, so why start now, right?
No, I agree. Hey, everybody. And I'm actually kind of excited about this show, our talk here. It's sort of like a culmination of 2 years plus a lot of rhetoric and a lot of confusion and a lot of blame and, plus violence and attacks upon people. And, it's been pretty huge what we've been seeing going on. And it always appears like there's two sides, the good side and the bad side and so on and so forth. But like Patty said, stick with us because we're going to talk about both sides. And we have a conclusion here that we've come to after all that we're going to disclose today and all that we're going to share today. We have a conclusion that I think everybody really, really would benefit from hearing what we have to say. It's basically for us, for the people, what we're going to conclude with, a piece that I think is a very key element. And of course, what we're going to talk about is what's happening in the political arena that's been going on, for quite a while now. But also, I just want to say that the title, Crying and Gnashing of Teeth, is what is happening in this moment pretty much all over the United States, I suppose, maybe even in other countries, I don't know. Then there are people who are jumping up and down and screaming their heads off for joy and so on. But all in all, none of that matters in the long run, because in the long run, Patty and I are going to talk about where we're heading after all this quiets down, because this is key to where we are all heading. And it may look all good to those who are jumping up and down and laughing and saying, "We told you so." And it may look pretty awful for those who are tearing their hair out and crying and gnashing. But ultimately, they're involved too. We're all part of this. The people is what I'm talking about. Okay, so is there anything more you want to add before I get going on this, sis?
No, other than I just want to let the chat know that, please, we want to hear your comments. You don't have to agree with us. It's not about agreeing. It's about talking about this. It's about asking questions. It's about having a dialogue, and I know the PFP chats are the best that there are. You guys always contribute, so just saying. Go ahead, sis.
Well, as you know, I think you pretty much all should know, I don't know, maybe some of you don't, is that there has been an ongoing investigation about, against President Donald Trump, about the so-called Russian collusion and his, affecting justice and so on. And this March 24th, his report came out after 2 years and $40 million and all kinds of goings on and conjectures and attacks and people who are standing up strongly saying they're going to find the dirt on him and it's true, and he did collude with the Russians and he did obstruct justice and all on and on. And we'll talk about more of that later, what people have actually been saying and going, the lengths that people have been going. But here is the Attorney General's report upon receiving Mueller's report. Okay, so this is the Attorney General's letter, Washington, D.C., March 24th, 2019, to the Honorable Lindsey Graham, the Honorable Gerald Nadler, the Honorable Dianne Feinstein, and the Honorable Doug Collins. Dear Chairman Graham, Chairman Nadler, Ranking Member Feinstein, and Ranking Member Collins, as a supplement to the notification provided on Friday, March 22nd, 2019, I am writing today to advise you of the principal conclusions reached by Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III, and to inform you about the status of my initial review of the report that he has prepared. Now, this is the Special Counsel's report. On Friday, the special counsel submitted to me a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions that he has reached as required. This report is entitled Report on the Investigation into Russian Interference in the 2016 Presidential Election. Although my review is ongoing, I believe that it is in the public interest to describe the report and to summarize the principal conclusions reached by the special counsel and the results of his investigation. The report explains that the special counsel and his staff thoroughly investigated allegations that members of the presidential campaign of Donald J. Trump and others associated with it conspired with the Russian government in its efforts to interfere in the 2016 United States presidential election or sought to obstruct the related federal investigations. In the report, the special counsel noted that in completing his investigation, he did employ 19 lawyers who were assisted by a team of approximately 40 FBI agents, intelligence and analysts, forensic accountants, and other professional staff. The special counsel issued more than 2,800 subpoenas, executed nearly 500 search warrants, obtained more than 230 orders for communication records, issued almost 50 orders authorizing use of pen registers, made 13 requests to foreign governments for evidence, and interviewed approximately 500 witnesses. The special counsel obtained a number of indictments and convictions of individuals and entities in connection with his investigation, all of which have been publicly disclosed. Now, during the course of his investigation, the special counsel Mueller also referred several matters to other offices for further action. The report does not recommend any further indictments, nor did the special counsel obtain any sealed indictments that have yet to be made public. Below, I summarize the principal conclusions set out in the Supreme Counsel's report. Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The special counsel's report is divided into two parts. The first describes the results of the special counsel's investigation into Russia's interference into the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The report outlines the Russian effort to influence the election and documents crimes committed by persons associated with the Russian government in connection with those efforts. The report further explains that a primary consideration for the special counsel's investigation was whether any Americans, including individuals associated with the Trump campaign, joined the Russian conspiracies to influence the election, which would be a federal crime. The special counsel's investigation did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. As the report states, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. Also, the special counsel's investigation determined that there were two main Russian efforts to influence the 2016 election. The first involved attempts by a Russian organization, the Internet Research Agency, to conduct disinformation and social media operations in the United States designed to sow social discord, eventually with the aim of interfering with the election. As noted above, the special counsel did not find that any U.S. person or Trump campaign official or associate conspired or knowingly coordinated with the IRA, that Russian agency, in its efforts, although the special counsel brought criminal charges against a number of Russian nationals and entities in connection with these activities. The second element involved the Russian government's efforts to conduct computer hacking operations designed to gather and disseminate information to influence the election. The special counsel found that Russian government actors successfully hacked into computers and obtained emails from persons affiliated with the Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party organizations, and publicly disseminated these materials through various intermediaries, including WikiLeaks. Based on these activities, the special counsel brought criminal charges against a number of Russian military officials for conspiring to hack into computers in the United States for purposes of influencing the election. But, as noted above, the special counsel Mueller did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts, despite multiple offers from Russian-affiliated individuals to assist the Trump campaign. In assessing potential conspiracy charges, the special counsel also considered whether members of the Trump campaign coordinated with Russian election interference activities. The special counsel defined coordination as an agreement, tacit or express, between the Trump campaign and the Russian government on election interference. Obstruction of justice. The report's second part addresses a number of actions by the president, most of which have been the subject of public reporting, that the special counsel investigated as potentially raising obstruction of justice concerns. After making a thorough, factual investigation into these matters, the special counsel Mueller considered whether to evaluate the conduct under department standards governing prosecution and declination decisions, but ultimately determined not to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment. The special counsel, therefore, did not draw a conclusion one way or the other as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction. Instead, for each of the relevant actions investigated, the report sets out evidence on both sides of the question and leaves unresolved what the special counsel views as difficult issues of law and fact concerning whether the president's actions and intent could be viewed as obstruction. The special counsel states that while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Is there anything you want to add while I sit until I continue here? I guess she's not there. Okay.
No, not so far.
Okay, the special counsel's decision to describe the fact of his obstruction investigation without reaching any legal conclusions does leave it then to the Attorney General to determine whether the conduct described in the report constitutes a crime. In other words, the Attorney General will see these the conduct that will be described in the report, and he will determine. Over the course of the investigation, the special counsel's office engaged in discussions with certain department officials regarding many of the legal and factual matters at issue in the special counsel's obstruction investigation. After reviewing the special counsel's final report on these issues, consulting with department officials, including the Office of Legal Counsel, and applying the principles of federal prosecution that guide our charging decisions, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and I have concluded that the evidence developed during the special counsel's investigation is not sufficient to establish that the president committed an obstruction of justice offense. Our determination was made without regard to and is not based on the constitutional considerations that surround the indictment and criminal prosecution of a sitting president. So I'm going to rephrase that or reread that. It says our determination was made without regard, okay, and is not based on In making this determination, we noted that the special counsel recognized that the evidence does not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian election interference, and that while not determinative, the absence of such evidence bears upon the president's intent with respect to obstruction. Generally speaking, to obtain and sustain an obstruction conviction, the government would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a person acting with corrupt intent engaged in obstructive behavior with a sufficient nexus to a pending or contemplated proceeding. In cataloging the president's actions, many of which took place in public view, the report identifies no actions that in our judgment constitute obstructive conduct, had a nexus to a pending or contemplated proceeding, and were done with corrupt intent, each of which, under the department's principles of federal prosecution guiding charging decisions, would need to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt to establish an obstruction of justice offense. As I have previously stated, I am mindful of the public interest in this matter. For that reason, my goal and intent is to release as much of the special counsel's report as I can, consistent with applicable law, regulations, and departmental policies. Based on my discussions with the special counsel and my initial review, it is apparent that the report contains material that is or could be subject to federal rule of criminal procedure, which imposes restrictions on the use and disclosure of information relating to matters occurring before a grand jury. Given these restrictions, the schedule for processing the report depends in part on how quickly the department can identify the material that by law cannot be made public. Now, I have requested the assistance of the special counsel in identifying all information contained in the report as quickly as possible. Separately, I also must identify any information that could impact other ongoing matters, including those that the special counsel has referred to other offices. As soon as that process is complete, I will be in a position to move forward expeditiously in determining what can be released in light of applicable law, regulations, and departmental policies. As I observed in my initial notification, the special counsel regulations provide that the Attorney General may determine that public release of notifications to your respective committees would be in the public interest. I have so determined, and I will disclose this letter to the public after delivering it to you. Sincerely, William P. Barr, Attorney General. Okay, so that's the letter from William P. Barr, the Attorney General, after receiving Special Counsel Mueller's report on the 2+ years of his investigation into so-called Russia collusion and obstruction of justice by President Donald Trump and any of his persons. Do you have anything to say, sis, before I move on?
Yeah, I just want to add to this that you may recall, and if not, Mueller was the Democrats' hero. They cheered when he was put in charge of this investigation. They had no problem for the last 2.5 years that they had been spinning these lies, including the media, these lies based on what the media and the Democrats already knew was false information provided by a false dossier paid for by the DNC, Hillary Clinton. The trail is very apparent. So this was their guy. Mueller was their guy up until the point when this report, his investigation, was done and there was no collusion found. Now the Democrats have turned and say now that Mueller is part of the plant, that he was planted, that he was a Trump guy. You know, this is the insanity that we're dealing with here. Millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars of tax money was spent for 2.5 years on a false dossier that they knew was false in the very beginning, that was turned over and given to the FISA courts without verification and without any documentation to prove that it was true. All of this is part of an ongoing investigation. It doesn't stop here. Mueller was tasked with finding out if there was Russian collusion. He found out that there wasn't with Trump. That does not mean that he did not find out there was Russian collusion. Here's the thing, is that it goes now to the Attorney General, to the Investigator General, to the Department of Justice, and now we have new investigations that are going to follow through with the actual bad actors that did this. So it's not done yet.
It's not
We're
done
still
yet.
going to be paying tax money, yeah.
It's not done yet, and there are other things, of course. I find it ironic that, yes, like you said, that Mueller was the dream boy here. He was going to find the dirt. He was going to do the digging. He was their guy, Special Counsel FBI Mueller. And across the board, and I'm going to read this one article here that says it all to me. And then I just want you to remember, we're going to get to the other side of this eventually. And boy, I think the other side is going to be mind-blowing, because it's what Patty and I have concluded all along. And this piece here that we're reading today fits so perfectly into, I guess I want to say this is like the mystery piece here, but it's no longer a mystery, and we hope to show you how things are too sweet. Things are too perfect. And it's like when you say something is too good, is it true? It's too good to be true. And we're going to point out to you, what we kind of suspect here, and let you in on that as well. So this is an article here from Piers Morgan, who I'm not really very fond of, and occasionally I'll read some of his posts, but I like this post because he really tells it. He really tells it, I think, what it is and what some of us feel, who all along, and I have sat with friends who have, basically repeated the rhetoric from the mainstream media about the Russian collusion and the obstruction of justice and all this stuff about Trump. And I have said to them, there is no Russian collusion. You will find that out. I have said this over and over again. I know Patty has as well. And they look at you like you have no clue. But now I'm very curious to see what the people will be experiencing when they find this out. And that's why, hence we say the gnashing of teeth and the crying. So the Russia collusion hoax was a disgraceful fake news witch hunt that shames all of Trump's deranged enemies in the media, the FBI, and Hollywood, and has probably ensured the worst nightmare, his re-election. And we want to actually point to that this is very telling here. The worst nightmare, his re-election, okay? And we're gonna hit on that afterwards. So it was all fake news. The entire 2-year Russia collusion frenzy was based on an absolute falsehood that Donald Trump and his team had colluded with Russians to fix the 2016 election. It's hard to imagine a worse thing to say about someone than that they betrayed their country, and then that they were traitors to their own people. Yet that was the charge leveled at Trump in an obsessively unrelenting campaign to bring him down as president. And today he stands completely vindicated. The long-awaited report of Special Counsel Robert Mueller sensationally cleared Trump of any collusion. After an intensive investigation, Mueller concluded that neither the president nor any of his campaign team conspired with any Russians to interfere with the election. And Trump is jubilant, and that's understandable. But whilst I am pleased for him that he was finally exonerated of a high crime that I never thought he could possibly have committed, my overwhelming feeling today is one of fury that he had to endure such a disgraceful, deceitful, and concerted attack on his presidency based on nothing but a fervent desire to destroy him and his family. Now make no mistake, this was a Get Trump mission driven by a collection of people who just couldn't stomach the thought that he won the White House. The Democrats, led by the demented Adam Schiff, screamed collusion so often that I'm amazed that their larynxes didn't explode, but at least they had an obvious political motive for wanting Trump gone. What is far worse is the way so many mainstream U.S. media networks, newspapers, and individual journalists fueled this fake frenzy. They let all the normal rules of balanced reporting fly out the window as they competed with each other over who could land the biggest Pulitzer Prize-winning Trump-Russia sucker punch that would KO the president that they loathe. Only it turned out that they were all punching thin air. There was no collusion. None. Nada. And today, all the people who've spent the past 2 years telling the world Trump's going down for Russia collusion look very stupid and have their reputation for impartially or irrevocably ruined. Once revered newspapers like the New York Times and Washington Post are effectively finished as credible purveyors of fair and balanced news. Their sustained, often viciously partisan Russiagate coverage has been dictated not by any higher purpose journalistic rigor, but by commercial greed. The more they hammered the president, the more copies they sell and website clicks they attract, and the more money they make. And the Trump's a traitor narrative has been their biggest money spinner. Think of that. The Trump's a traitor narrative. How many times have we heard people yelling that Trump's a traitor with no proof? It's the biggest money spinner. The Times has seen subscription and profits skyrocket since it erupted and has boasted about its success and to nauseam. But at what cost to its integrity? Meanwhile, on the internet, websites have behaved like they were back in the unregulated, unlicensed Wild West. BuzzFeed, keen to show the world it's a serious news organization and not a trivia-led clickbaiting gossip sheet, recklessly published the infamous dossier from an ex-British spy, Christopher Steele, and Fusion GPS founder Glenn Simpson, that claimed, among other outlandish things, that Trump paid prostitutes to urinate on him in a Moscow hotel room. This revelation was designed to humiliate Trump personally and also to infer that Vladimir Putin's intelligence operatives had tapes of the incident, which is why Trump was so badly compromised by Russia, and it was also untrue. I wrote at the time that most of the dossier commissioned by the Hillary Clinton campaign and Democrats sounded like nonsense, and sure enough, all the more lurid revelations have never been proven. Yet, that terrible journalistic decision to run a completely unverified document full of obvious bull poop poured 1 million tons of fuel onto the small Russia collusion fire burning slowly away in Washington and turned it into a furnace that threatened to engulf and destroy the Trump presidency. Now, I'm just going to say that to me, I know people on Facebook, I know people personally who have added to this fire, added to this horrible accusations without any proof, nothing. And to me, they should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm going to sit with some people pretty soon that I'm just going to see, what they feel about this. I hope that they feel some shame and some realization that they added to something so horrific against the United States president. Do you want to say anything at this point?
Yeah, I do want to add a couple of things that I think are pertinent. When you have a government that attacks itself. It is actually attacking the people. And we're going to go into this a little bit later. But when we look at the things that have happened because of the lies that have been propagated by the mainstream media, and yes, the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MSN, all of them have been in on this from the very beginning. They've been peddling the lie. They have been purposely attacking the president, undermining the
people,
principles,
our government.
Yes,
Yep.
of this government. And we have the people divided in such a way that the people are acting in an animalistic nature. I have never seen such hate, anger, and vitriol thrown about by supposedly free people, free-thinking people. It is, to me, any country looking at us, I'm embarrassed. I am totally embarrassed.
Yeah, that's a
by,
good point.
Yeah, by the actions that the people of this country have taken. So not only do we have the corruption in our government that has been allowed to continue on and badger and beat down and continuously obstruct a duly elected president, but we have our people who have done the same thing to each other. I mean, there's nothing about this that we need to be proud of on either side. Just saying. Done.
Yeah, I am like, I mean, it's interesting. I'm not saying we told you so, but, you know, it's interesting because I have been attacked by people for my perspective on this. I have been told that I'm crazy and all kinds of names, as I'm sure other people have experienced. And so this vindication, you know, is well-deserved, I feel. And I'm not about to point fingers at other people and call them names, because that's not how I am, as they called me names. You know, from my perspective and my standing up and saying this isn't true. There is no Russian collusion here. There was no obstruction. You'll find it out. You'll find out. Just wait. The people that were screaming at the tops of their lungs against Trump, the hate, and actually writing that they were ashamed and they were embarrassed to be an American because of Trump as the president. Wow, I'm just saying. So, let's move on here, because we have cable TV was arguably even worse than the press, and CNN anchors like Anderson Cooper can't hide their sneering disdain for Trump, which is entirely their prerogative. That's okay, but you know what? If you're presenting yourself on CNN as an anchor and you're spewing out lies, you are going to be in trouble. Okay, then you have like Cooper, that disdain compels you to spend night after night, month after month, devoting almost your entire news show to what has turned out to be a fake news story. Well, your reputation as an unbiased, fair-minded journalist is finished. Why should any CNN viewer ever trust the likes of Cooper again, given how badly he's burned himself in this bogus Russia collusion story? And you know, at MSNBC, hugely popular anchors like Rachel Maddow pumped out the Russia line with increasingly intense, emotional nightly detail, convincing themselves and their viewers in the process that they were exposing the new Watergate. But they weren't. And I have to say, there's a video out of Rachel Maddow crying because the truth has come out. Okay, they were just exposing their own bias and news judgment twisting hatred of Trump. Late night hosts too. Yeah, the late night hosts, a bunch of comedians, all regularly embrace the Russia collusion, led by Stephen Colbert, who turned around his ailing late show's ratings fortunes by making it a Trump-whacking forum featuring the constant subliminal message, "Don't worry, folks, Mueller's coming for him." And ironically, Fox News, which is routinely attacked by the left in America for its often undeniably slavish support for Trump, emerges with by far the most credit on this story. Their much vilified primetime anchors Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson have repeatedly picked apart and rubbished the Russia collusion claims, and they were right. The collective impact of all this hysteria was that 95% of America's media was actively colluding. Oh, the irony, to turn the false Russia collusion story into a presidency-ending scandal. Think of that, folks. 95% of America's media. I've never seen anything like it in all my years of watching these things. I just was blown away. I've never witnessed all the media. Okay, so we have 95% of America's media actually attacking a president daily, hourly, daily, with pretty much nothing, just lies. So as Rolling Stone's Matt Taibbi wrote in an excoriating attack, it has been this media generation's equivalent of the weapons of mass destruction fiasco that led to the Iraq War being fought on an entirely bogus pretext, aided and abetted by a woefully supine and deluded media. Remember that? The weapons of mass destruction fiasco? That's why we went to war in Iraq. That's another thing I said. There are no weapons of mass destruction, and boy was I attacked for that as well. So, he said, as a purely journalistic exercise, weapons of mass destruction was a pimple compared to Russiagate. The sheer scale of the errors and exaggerations this time dwarfs the last mess. Worse, it's led to most journalists adopting a radical change in mission. The journalists have become side choosers, obliterating the concept of the press as an independent institution whose primary role is sorting fact and fiction. Now, one of the things that I do remember very, very clearly when Trump started running, he started saying fake news, fake news, fake news, and I was, yes, he's right. I absolutely agreed with him, and here we are, aren't we? So, as for other big losers in all of this, the list is long and illustrious. We have Hillary Clinton, who never got over being beaten by a candidate with zero political experience, has been shrieking away ever since about Trump colluding with Russians, hasn't she? In the desperate hope it would be proven true and she should rise again in its glory as the true winner of 2016. Today, she just looks an even bigger loser. Now, we have the FBI. What about the FBI? Supposedly the very byword of discretion and unimpeachable integrity. Unimpeachable. For Bureau's former boss turned self-aggrandizing secret revealing lawman, celebrity James Comey posted a moody photo of himself in Woodland on Sunday and the caption, "So many questions." And I have to say, I know that soon information will be coming out about this tweet with Comey standing in a forest looking up at these giant trees with a question that he wrote, "So many questions." Well, it's his post. And there's information about that, and those who are interested in doing research, if you are, will actually find out what that message really means. Now, yes, there are questions. What the hell was the FBI doing on Comey's watch while Russia was aggressively hacking away to try to fix our last election? The shocking answer is that they were more fixated with trying to stop Trump becoming president and wrecking his presidency. There should now be a proper investigation into Comey's role in forcing the Mueller investigation into life in the first place by leaking misinformation to the media when there was no hard evidence to support any collusion. Such a new probe should also examine how Comey's FBI colleague like Andrew McCabe, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, and Peter Strzok all conspired to compromise the democratically elected president of the United States. Folks, this is an unprecedented, outrageous exposure here and disclosure about what has been going on in our government. They are all heavily implicated in numerous acts of alleged crimes involving the misuse of the Steele dossier, which they used as an excuse to get FISA warrants to spy on an associate of Trump's campaign without any mention of Hillary and the Democrats that financed it. Their treachery and Trump-hating motivation for it is all there in their own words. Stroke texted Page, his secret lover, before the 2016 election, and after he had just helped get Hillary off the email scandal, which, by the way, he did, remember that, right? To say a newly opened FBI investigation against Trump was an insurance policy against him in case he won. McCabe, who succeeded Comey as FBI director, confirmed to CBS after his own departure that he not only launched a counterintelligence operation against President Trump, but also discussed with FBI colleagues whether it was possible to remove him from office using the 25th Amendment. What the hell were all these FBI agents, who took an oath, by the way, to serve the president, what were they doing by plotting against him in such a disgraceful way? Aren't you people upset about hearing this? I am. The full scale of their behavior must be properly investigated, and those involved, if proven to have acted illegally, should be jailed. And then, of course, we've got the Trump-bashing liberal celebrities who've been hollering collusion for 2 years, and more recently been salivating on social media about the president's impending day of reckoning at the hands of their hero, Mueller. Now, today, they're this preening and posturing collection of ridiculous Hollywood creatures. And here's some of them: Bette Midler, Sarah Silverman, Chelsea Handler, Alyssa Milano, Rob Rainier, George Takei have all been left in a state of shock, distress, and yes, sad to say, denial. Unable to believe that their knight in shining armor didn't just spare their target, but it actually exonerated him. You know, and I want to talk about this denial thing. Sis, you want to talk about the denial thing? Do you have anything to say on the denial?
Well, I did want to say also that the FBI was very aware from the very get-go that the dossier was fake. They
That's
knew
right.
that it was not verified, and actually knew that it was concocted. They had this information, and they buried it. So this is something like Sis just said. You need to be outraged, because this is the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is an agency tasked with keeping the corruption and keeping crime out of our elected system, out of our system of government. Yet what we see is that not only did they allow it, they helped perpetrate it. Yet when it comes to the people, you and me, how many have been caught by the FBI? Yes, yeah. And prosecuted to the fullest extent. We have all of this stuff about Flynn, for example.
Yeah, General Flynn, yes.
Yes, he lost everything. He lost his home. He lost his job. He was disgraced. Yeah. All because, and he was not under oath, because he, after being badgered, said he did something that he actually didn't do. It was proven later that he didn't do it, yet he's still been prosecuted by the FBI and found guilty by the FBI and prosecuted by the Department of Justice.
But this is the travesty. But those that were in this collusion, that's who prosecuted him. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
But they're still running free. I mean, all of these people that it's proven, documented, they were part of this setup. They were part of this lie. They were part of the illegal FISAs that were garnered in order to spy on Americans.
Yep.
They're still scot-free.
You people, us, spy on us, all the people here. this makes me furious, because these people are still out there and they're writing books and making tons and tons of money. They're on the circuit giving speeches like Comey and all these people. They're writing books, making lots of money, and they basically are treasonous against our country and against us. This is outrageous to me. I don't like it. It really infuriates me when people do wrong things on purpose. When people deliberately do something like this, to me, it is a disgrace. It infuriates me. It never should be. For people to do this, and they did this before he was elected. They started this process before Donald Trump was actually elected. This is all written information. This is all in documents. This is all in the dossier. If you people did research, you would have known what Patty and I know, what we've been telling you all along. Okay? You would have known that too. It's all there for everybody to find out. So I'm just going to finish this up, and I got to calm down here because I really get furious when people lie and when people spew out rhetoric and vitriol against a person, any person, I don't care who it is, that is innocent, and affect their family and their children and their grandchildren and the people who stood up in this country and voted freely. That is their right for a person that they wanted. How those people have been called, whatever she called them, and people say terrible things about people who voted for Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Hillary either. But I'm just saying, this gets me, folks, because I just can't imagine, what these people, what this man, what his wife, what his children, what his grandchildren, what his family has been subjected to. And he knew all along, okay, that there was no collusion. And he kept saying it, fake news, no collusion, fake news, no collusion. Okay? So of all the many terrible things about this Russia collusion farce, the worst is the open, excited craving by so many Americans to want to believe their president was a corrupt agent of a foreign enemy. And their undisguised disappointment now, it turns out that he wasn't. This, above all, blows my mind. You would think, right, sis, that people would be saying, thank goodness he wasn't this dirty. Thank goodness.
And they would be mad to know that this agency, the FBI, along with the Department of Justice, along with the Attorney General, that these agencies were so corrupt. It should make the American people just come unglued at the fact that this is happening. But no, nobody's saying anything about the corruption that has been shown, that has been proven between these agencies.
No, they're coming unglued about the fact that they found him innocent, that there was no collusion. That's what they're coming unglued about, not the fact that all these people, FBI agents and all these senators and so on, these people that are involved in this, were liars. No, that's what you should be upset about. But it's like, I have to read this again because this says it all to me. The terrible things about this Russia collusion farce, the worst is the open, excited craving by so many Americans to want to believe their president was a corrupt agent of a foreign country, calling him a Nazi, in bed with Putin, and so on and so forth. It's really revolting to me. Really.
What'll be interesting, because we know, sis, and we told you this on air, that the one who was in collusion with Russia will turn out to be Hillary Rodham Clinton and the DNC, who constructed the Steele dossier, paid for it, and Obama, who allowed these illegal FISA documents to go through. Now, I'd be interested to see if people are as outraged about this
I bet
as
they
their
won't be.
possible collusion against Trump. Yeah.
I bet they won't be, and I also bet that they will deny. They will be in denial. And why will they be in denial? Because they're brainwashed, that's why. If you actually can't see this information and be outraged at what happened to Donald Trump and his family, I don't care whether you like him or not, think about what our government, what the hidden people did. Think about that. If they did it to him, they could do it to anybody, and I think they probably have. So I'm just saying, and if you can't look at the ones that are part of this collusion, yes, like Clinton and those, involved in all of this mess, even Obama, if you do not feel outraged for that, then I don't know. I'm stumped. I just don't have an answer for that, This scandal has exposed many of America's politicians, journalists, and celebrities for the hysterical...
On both sides of the aisle.
On both sides, yes, for the hysterical Trump deranged fools that they have become. By obsessing about the fake saga of Russia collusion, they have done unmeasurable harm to their country and their own reputations. And I have to say, I have seen people, and I've said this before, like on Facebook, and people that I know who claim to be spiritual people, who claim to be nice, good people, people of the community, who have said the most vile rhetoric that they have seen or heard on mainstream media without any proof. They have done immeasurable harm to this country and to people, innocent people. Now Trump is no angel. Yes, he's not. Okay, and there may be other investigations that may or may not uncover bad stuff, and that remains to be seen. But on Russia, he has been absolutely consistent in repeatedly crying no collusion, and he's called the probe a witch hunt more than 170 times, and that's why he said it so many times. He was right. There was no collusion, and it was a witch hunt. The result of this appalling episode in modern American history is that Trump emerges vindicated, emboldened, and with a massive stick to beat as many critics in the 2020 election campaign. And this is going to lead us into the next, into the segue that you guys want to stay tuned to hear, because yes, his opponents have once again shown their horrible tendency to believe their supposed moral superiority justifies anything that they do, however venal. I can see him now on the stump declaring, I delivered on defeating ISIS, I delivered on the economy, and I crushed the fake news attempt to destroy me on Russia collusion. It's a powerful vote-winning cocktail, isn't it? I tweeted last year that my bet was Mueller would find no collusion. Today, I bet you that Trump, if nothing serious emerges in any other investigation, will now be re-elected president, and his enemies will have only themselves to blame. And I'm not going to, well, we can, but I'm not going to go into the, wow, the angry Dems are now turning against Mueller, okay, because we already mentioned something like that, but it's pretty disgusting. After he was their man, right? And guess what? They are turning on Mueller now, the Dems. And the CNN says that they may sue Mueller and the special counsel. Get that? Can you imagine that? You know why? Because he didn't come up with what they wanted. That's why. Because there was nothing. That's why.
Even after all of this, and the documentation, the testimonies, the emails from HRC, the DNC, Seth Rich, the everything that has been provided, the Stork and Page texts that were so incriminating, all of this. But you never heard this on the mainstream media. CNN never told you about these real documented proofs that were part of this investigation. But now is the opening This is the other side of the coin, and we're going to go into this in a little bit. But I want to go to the this one article here from the Hill, which was which was an anti-Trump, just the same as all the
Big time.
Well, cheers. I got to say, thank you for standing up and admitting what you did.
That's,
so I want you to read this one out.
This is from the Hill, as Patty just said, a big, opponent screaming all the time about Trump, the Russia collusion and whatever. And here's what they say. With the conclusions of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe now known to a significant degree, it seems apologies are in order. However, judging by the recent past, apologies are not likely forthcoming from the responsible parties, right? Okay, let me get this right here. This keeps jumping. In this context, it matters not whether one is a supporter or a critic of President Trump. Okay, whatever his supposed flaws, the rampant accusations and speculations that shrouded Trump's presidency even before it began ultimately have been proven unfounded, just as Trump said all along. Yet each time Trump said so, some of us in the media lampooned him. We treated any words he spoke in his defense as if they were automatically to be disbelieved because he had uttered them. Some even declared his words to be lies, although they had no evidence to back up their claims. We in the media allowed unproven charges and false accusations to dominate the news landscape for more than 2 years in a way that was widely unbalanced and disproportionate to the evidence. We did a poor job of tracking down leaks or false information. We failed to reasonably weigh the motives of anonymous sources and those claiming to have secret special evidence of Trump's treason. As such, we reported a tremendous amount of false information, always to Trump's detriment. And when we corrected our mistakes, we often doubled down more than we apologized. We may have been technically wrong on the tiny point. We would acknowledge that. But in the same breath, we would insist that Trump was so obviously guilty of being a Russian President Vladimir Putin's puppet that the technical details hardly mattered. So a round of apologies seem in order. Apologies to Trump on behalf of those in the U.S. intelligence community, including the Department of Justice and the FBI, which allowed the weaponization of sensitive, intrusive intelligence tools against innocent citizens such as Carter Page, an advisor to Trump's presidential campaign. Apologies also to Page himself, to Jerome Corsi, Donald Trump Jr., and other citizens whose rights were violated or who were unfairly caught up in surveillance or the heated pursuit of charges based on little more than false, unproven opposition research paid for by Democrats and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Apologies for the stress on their jobs and to their families, the damage to their reputations, the money they had to spend to hire legal representation and defend themselves from charges for crimes they did not commit. Apologies on behalf of those in the intelligence community who leaked true information out of context to make Trump look guilty and who sometimes leaked false information to try to implicate or frame him. Apologies from those in the chain of command at the FBI and the Department of Justice who were supposed to make sure all information presented to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court is verified but did not do so. Apologies from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act FISA court judges who are supposed to serve as one of the few checks and balances to prevent the FBI from wiretapping innocent Americans. Whether because of blind trust in the FBI or out of ignorance or even malfeasance, they failed at this important job. Apologies to the American people who did not receive the full attention of their government while political points were being scored, who were not told about some important world events. Yeah, because they were crowded out of the news by the persistent insistence that Trump was working for Russia. Apologies all the way round. And now, with those apologies handled, are more than apologies due? Should we try to learn more about these supposed Russian sources who provided false intel contained in the dossier against Trump, Page, and others? Should we learn how these sources came to the attention of ex-British spy Christopher Steele, who built a dossier and claimed that some of the sources were close to Putin? When and where did Steele meet with these high-level Russian sources who provided the apparently false information? Are these the people who actually took proven concrete steps to interfere in the 2016 election and sabotage Trump's presidency beginning in its earliest days? Just who? Oops, I lost it. Yeah, where are you? This is jumping around here. Just who conspired to put the dossier into the hands of the FBI? Who, within our intel community, dropped the ball on verifying the information and instead leaked it to the press and presented it to the FISA as if legitimate? Sorry hardly seems to be enough. Will anyone be held accountable? That's the question. And what do you think, sis? I think many people are going to be held accountable.
Yeah, the can of worms has been opened, and I think that we're going to get into that on the other side of this break. And stick with us. Like we said, we've given you the one side. Now we're going to go and we're going to give you the other side. And then we're going to give you our take. Just saying. Because we are neither for nor against. We are in the middle, as we've always been, and we've told you that. We are seeking the truth here. We all deserve the truth, and you're going to get more of the truth from our perspective here on where we're heading now. What is all this really about? What is the hidden thing going on here? Because there is something, and we're going to try to share that with you and see what you guys think about it. So we're going to see you on the other side of this tune, and stick with us, guys. We got more to talk about. Okay, and welcome back, everybody, to the Turtle and Crow Show. And today's title is Crying and Gnashing of Teeth. And for the first hour, we've talked about the Mueller investigation, the indictments against Trump, and how there was the investigation against Trump, and how it was proven that there was no collusion, and that, in fact, by Trump. That does not mean there was no collusion. And there are many sealed indictments. Starr had asked that question. I posted a link in there. I think, there's
37,000 last time I
30.
looked.
Yes. And, well, let me see here. I have heard indicate that several journalists believe there are now 12, at least, and possibly more. Now, I'm not sure exactly what this is pertaining to, but across the U.S., there are something like, 60-something thousand
Right.
indictments. And if you've been paying attention, we're going to talk about right now what we deem, and what I call at least, the mastermind and the master plan that no one saw coming except for those who were actually paying attention. And this has to do with the complete setup. People have been buying the Kool-Aid. They've been drinking the MSN Kool-Aid, and they have been thinking that all this time that these people that were put in place to do these investigations were going to be able to prove Trump to be this evil, horrible traitor. Right. But the whole time, this is I've got to say this because it's been a brilliant plan, and I think we've tried to explain this to you guys, is that he's always been in control. He has been trolling, and if you haven't seen Trump trolling and seen the triggers that he has put off on the MSN and the people who jump on everything he says, and they think that they're making fun of him or that they're calling him out, and he's been trolling them the whole time because he needed the narrative. Yes.
That's the funny thing. That's the real amazing maestro game, is that when he would misspell something, they jump on it like he's an idiot who doesn't know how to spell. Well, there was a reason for those misspells. Everything was a code. This is the maestro's game, and it's pretty deep and amazing. And we started looking at this because it was proven, and we talked about this early on, proven that Trump / and I'm going to add Q in here, were 10 steps ahead of the deep state. Right, sis?
Yes. They laid out breadcrumbs that led to a trap, and then laid more breadcrumbs that led to another trap, that led to another trap, that led to another trap. And, Q was famous for saying in many of his posts that these people are stupid.
Yes.
And
yeah,
I caught on to this, right, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the point of it is that they've proven that he was right, that Q was right, because in every instance, instead of proving that the president was corrupt, they only wound up incriminating themselves and pointing the direction of the real corruption and the real people who were involved in this. Every step of the way, they have indicted themselves.
Well,
right.
Gaz has a question here. Will there be indictments for the perpetrators and feeders of the whole fake reports on Trump now?
Well, there's investigations that are being opened up right now. Judicial
Yeah.
Watch has just recently garnered more of Hillary Clinton's emails through a FOIA request to the Department of Justice, who did not want to release these. They have been released, and they show clear corruption and collusion and treason against Hillary Clinton,
Yep.
McCabe, Comey,
Yeah.
all the bad actors, including Obama. Obama is in on this too. So yes,
Yeah.
there are investigations going, and the documentation we know is there because we've seen it. And
Yep.
if you were following Q, you found that information too, and you've seen it. So yeah, there will be indictments. It's not something, people, even the people who support the president have been, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? You don't take a government down overnight. It's not like you go to your regular city court and you go up there and you say, okay, I want to indict this person. You're going after government officials, government agencies for crimes of such severe magnitude that if you don't have your ducks in order
Yeah.
and they are guilty, they're going to walk free.
Yeah. That's the whole point of the delay, of the long, step-by-step, incremental little codes and exposing them and them falling flat on their face and exposing themselves. And that stupid thing, that stupid thing, I kept looking at that. I said to Patty, I said, all right, I'm questioning this because here's, and I talked about this, we talked about this, sis, about on one of our shows about, okay, so you have a deep state, this hidden evil whatever's cabal that have been doing this stuff. This isn't new. They have been doing this stuff for I don't know how long, we could say centuries, and now suddenly they all got stupid. Okay, so you have intel through the Q intelligence groups, you have even the Anons participating in research and stuff, but I think that's just a part of the game to bring in these Anons who are sort of like people like us, except a lot of them are, autists, and they have incredible abilities to put things together and research.
Incredible skills, yes.
Incredible skills. And they were pulled in, I feel now, to prove or show that basically the information that is out there against this deep state and this cabal is not just going to be handed to people. That the people, the Anons and people who got involved in that had to learn how to do the research. They had to learn how to do the codes, the gematria, and so on and so forth. This was a huge monster puzzle with many tentacles. And basically Q and who's ever involved in that set it up so that it would show that they weren't just feeding information to the Anons or the public. Okay, that could be basically proven that, well, they're planning this. It's all set up and it's programmed. So that's how they set this up, so that the Anons would be the heroes, that the Patriots would be the heroes, which they are in a lot of ways. But I'm going to still...
Yeah, but one of the reasons why they did it that way... Go ahead and finish, and then I'll
No, I was going to say, they did it that way deliberately. So
yes.
That's the whole point that we're making, is they did this deliberately. And what does that say? They had to, because there's a final part here, people, and this is what we're really realizing this, because I just said this is so perfect, right? This is so perfect, and I remember over and over and over again how Q would say there are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. There are no coincidences. So I started to look at that. He said, you know what? This isn't a coincidence. Even the stupidness of the other side isn't a coincidence in my estimation. What do you think, sis?
Well, yeah, you have to look at it, and you have to see, the first thing me and Barb started talking about was when we started seeing these Q posts, and we started doing research, and we started going to the autist and seeing the information and the documentations that they were bringing up and how accurate it was, that it was real, that it was true, that and Q was not telling them what the information was or what the documentation was. Q was pointing them, giving them a name, giving them a website, giving them a court document or things like this. And they would follow up on it, and they're the ones that found the information
Yep.
that allowed us to learn what was actually going on. The reason why is because in order for Q, this group, it's not just one person, even though you'll hear me refer to it sometimes as he or whatever. It's not a he, it's a they, have been working with Trump. And this has been going on since like 2012, that they've been working with him.
I think even further back, don't you? I think it was something in 2009 they were saying.
Yeah. But they couldn't, Q could not come out and give this information, because then it could be discredited, because it would be a leak. It would be a leak.
That's what they say. That's
Right.
what they say. Now, we have to look at what's going to be exposed here. We're talking from JFK, probably prior to JFK, the assassination, the inside assassination, okay, from based on dirty people in our own government, assassination of JFK. We're talking about 9/11. We're probably talking about many other things that occurred, even false flags of today that we see unfolding. These are all going to be exposed for what they really are. And all the conspiracy wackadoodles out there are going to say, see, we told you so, you know, but so what? That doesn't give me a good feeling anyway for me to say I told you so, or Patty to say I told you so, because we know, we have a suspicion, and we want to propose this feeling, this idea, this theory that we have to you guys. And so I want you to pay attention, because it all looks good. It all looks good. We see people being taken down. We see the pedophiles, the sex traffickers. We see all these being taken down. We see disclosure happening. We see all these documents are going to be unredacted. They're going to be put out, and so on. Things are going to come that are going to just shock people. Things are going to be, I don't know, people are either going to fall off a cliff or drop in their tracks, or they're going to go, wow, I knew it. In a way, I kind of knew it, and I'm vindicated. I knew it all along. Then there are going to be many. There's going to be a percentage of people out there, people that you know, even, who will deny. They will be in denial about this. And the reason is, and the reason they had to have all their ducks in a row here before any of this big stuff does come out, is because, like, you know, Patty said, if there's one mistake they make, people will just walk away free. And we've seen that over and over again anyway. So all these pieces, we have realized that there are many people leaving. Many people have made deals. Many people in the government are so-called retiring. Many of them are turning state's evidence, if that's what you call it. Many of them are being used from both parties. Many of them
Fired.
Huh? What?
They're being fired.
They're being fired, but many of them are terrified for their lives, because if you turn state's evidence, or if you turn against Hillary Clinton or somebody, you may be suicided. You know, we're seeing suicides happening. There were the doorknob suicide episodes that were going on 2 months ago. What was that about?
Hillary's lawyer.
Hillary's lawyer. I mean, we
He was just about to be subpoenaed, and oh my gosh, he committed suicide.
So we have seen all this stuff, and you have to pay attention to this, because this is real and this is horrible. This is hard to swallow, people. I have read things, I have seen proofs of things that is pretty stunning, pretty shocking. It's hard to swallow. And we've talked about evil, haven't we, sis? We have talked about
Yes.
evil. Evil is real. And when you start to see that there is evil in your own government, people that you voted for, people that you believed in, how are you going to feel?
Atrocities
Yeah.
that you would never, ever, ever conceive could happen. There are things that we won't talk about. They're going to come out. But They are
I can't
horrific.
talk about them.
Yeah,
I can't talk about them because I mean, I've seen the proofs of these, and even though I see the proofs, it's still deeply, deeply disturbing. And how do you reconcile this kind of stuff? I mean, I know it
yeah.
exists. We've talked about it, but it's here in our face,
And
people.
we've decided on many, many occasions after we found this information out, we had to really talk about it because we wanted to talk to you about it, but we couldn't.
We
It's
couldn't.
Yeah, and we haven't, but it will come out. It will come out. But it's not, you cannot prepare yourself enough, I will say that, for the,
For what's
uh,
going to come out. The
yes,
people, the
about
people,
the people that you elected to
yep, the
office.
people that smile at you and wave at you and shake your hand and kiss your baby, folks.
And the ones in Hollywood, the ones in
Yeah.
the MSN, in every facet of your life. This is going on, and it is horrific. But anyway,
It's
we
against
digress.
it's against the children mostly, but it's against humanity. And Starr said it. She coined it. She says crimes against humanity. And yeah, I'll say evil against humanity. It's beyond our comprehension. But so with all this information that we've just read about, there was no collusion. That we stated long ago, and Trump has been saying over and over and over again. So Trump is not a traitor, my friends. Trump, basically what you've been spewing out, or those who have been, it's kind of sad for you, I suppose. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how you're going to reconcile this, but I think what we've been talking about here is the spiritual aspect, the power of the spiritual self, the power that this is a battle of evil and against the light, okay, and wake up, okay. So here's the piece, okay, with all this wonderful stuff that we are uncovering.
Here we go.
I mean, the truth of this, okay. I said to my daughter recently, because she's brilliant, and she's been working with Serial Brain too, and decoding Q's posts and doing the
She's a heck
gematria.
of a cipher. Yeah, she's a heck of
Unbelievable.
a cipher.
She should be an anon. She should be on that board. And she's pointing out things and in conversation with Serial Brain and coming up with stuff that is mind blowing. And I said to her, okay, I find this ironic that everything is so perfect. So you have, I don't know if you've ever been on the anon boards or Q or Serial Brain, but when you go in there, I just sit there dumbfounded because this is a puzzle beyond puzzles, okay? It's like a date will lead to this date of so-and-so's tweet and another so-and-so's tweet on the same date and the timeline. And then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, okay? So it's like a web. It's tentacles beyond my ability, okay? And some people have that. They can put it together, and then they do the gematria, and they come up with the exact code, and Serial Brain or Q says, yes, right on, dig deeper, and this and so on. Well, anyway, I'm saying, wait, this is so perfect. How can you have Comey tweeting something at a certain time using capital letters, okay, and Trump tweeting something at a certain time, him using capital letters and coding, and they're both saying the same thing or pointing to the same thing? That's very amazing to me, isn't it? Is it amazing to you, sis?
Yes, the correlations between the quote bad actors and a lot of what is being said is amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
We have the
and
good guys and the bad guys. The good guys versus the bad guys, but it seems like they're all playing the
the same game.
together.
Yes.
This is I want you to hear this because this is where I feel and Patty feels that we are being led down this pathway that I don't know what to say, sis. What do you say?
Well, let's start here. Okay, so we started thinking about, and Q has in many, many posts told us that, in fact, he's mentioned, although he's not mentioned it lately, but he had mentioned martial law.
Yeah.
He has mentioned things like this. We started looking and seeing that there were military people being set up in positions where other people were resigning from different agencies, different states, and different parts of Congress
Of
and the
government, right.
administration. Right. And so we started looking at this because we all know what a military state is all about. So this is where we step to the middle, guys, and it needs to be talked about. So don't lose us, okay? Listen to what we have to say.
But I do want
This
to
is-
add, wait, before you go, I do want to add that we have noticed that this is not only happening in the United States, it is happening in other countries as well.
Yes.
What we are telling you.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So we started looking at this and we started trying to figure out, okay, which way can this go? Because we've been told that the indictments, 80,000. Okay, so this is across the board. So we're going to lose a lot of people in the administration. We're going to lose a lot of people in the Congress. You're going to lose a lot of people in your state legislatures and in your government, in your governors. It's across the board. The news media, religion, education, health industry, all of them. There's going to be a vacuum, okay? It cannot be any other way. You cannot pull these people out and put people in fast enough to be able to maintain continuity of government. So we have Trump, who will put in an executive order of a state of emergency. This is something that would be plausible as to
Running the
maintain.
government. Yeah.
Right. There would have to be an executive order providing for continuity of government. Okay? And so when this happens, and we have this, then a state, very much like martial law, if not martial law, will have to be implemented. Our borders will have to be secured. Our port cities will have to be secured. Once we go to a national state of emergency, then we are put on alert because we become vulnerable, all right? So we know this, okay? But if we look at every other country, we see the same thing happening. The EU, the Brexit, now they're talking about martial law. We have the immigration in France, the yellow vests in France, that is now moved over into Europe, in Germany, and all of these different places where now we're seeing the collapse of governments that are happening. So martial law will have to be implemented there. Think about this. Think about this. This is all we're saying, is that in this situation, it would be very easy. It would be very easy. And we're talking about economic collapse at the same time. We've heard that Trump is going after the Fed and is taking the Fed down. We see this in other countries too, going toward the gold standard and away from the petrodollar. This is deliberate. China, with their ID laws, are now being implemented here and in other countries. All of this smacks of globalism to me, in a push toward that. And I know Trump is anti-globalist. I realize this. It's what he talks about, and I pray that this is true. But I'm looking at the world. I'm looking at the stage, and I'm looking at what is happening. My concern is that during these times that we're coming to, with this economic, governmental collapse, that this would be an excellent way to push towards a global agenda.
Well, look at the gold being bought up, right?
Yes. Yes, and also the attack on gun ownership. I
Yep.
mean, Australia, and in the UK now, they're going after the knives. Here, they're trying to attack the Second Amendment. What does that do here? The same thing it did in Australia. As soon as they start going after it, what happens? the gun sales skyrocket, and the people galvanize, and they say, over my dead body, from my cold dead hands, or whatever the saying is. This is smacking of civil war, because now we have the Muslim influx. We have the illegal immigration influx. We have states now that are moving toward shutting out the federal government. This move sounds good because we have Missouri that's saying, okay, no federal gun laws here. If the feds come here, they get put in jail. Other states are following suit with similar gun laws. This is the same thing that you see in the last Civil War that we had. A siding, a stepping, drawing a line between Fed and state. This is where we're at. This is what I'm saying. This is what me and Barb are looking at.
Well, we're looking at how perfect this all is falling into place. That's the big piece. Not only here in the U.S., but all over the world. Identical things are occurring. We're looking at the Muslim issue, the Sharia issue. We're looking at the immigration issue. Okay, we're looking at the 5G. We're looking at the whole mess. Now I'm amazed to see, after 2 years of not seeing any sign of Q or Trump mentioning the poisoning of the earth, the poisoning of the people through pharmaceuticals, through GMOs, through chemtrails, and the destruction of the earth. And now Serial Brain's noting this from Q, saying, actually using the term Mother Earth. Mother Earth, okay, like out of the blue. And I'm saying, wow, okay, this is interesting to me. I'm looking at all of that. So to me, I'm just thinking, okay, are we verging into that one world order, one world religion anyway, and the Agenda 2030, so that we have the solution, everybody, we want to save the world. We're going to free everybody, take all the evil out. We're going to take away the bad guys who are poisoning you through the food you're eating and the air and the pharmaceuticals. We're going to destroy all that, and we're going to save the Mother Earth. And guess what? You have to stay in your little apartments that we're building so that you don't destroy the Mother Earth, because the population's still going to be growing, and we're going to make it all better. And I cannot forget the quote in Serial Brain 2's post of what Q said, and he said this: "We will show you a brave new world." And I cannot forget those words, because that led me to Aldous Huxley, that nightmare. I don't want to go to that brave new world, folks, and I don't think you do either. And it is Agenda 2030 right across the board. Aldous Huxley said it. He got it. Just like, 1984 and all the others who were downloading all this information of where we find ourselves today. So we're in the middle here. This is what we're trying to tell you. All that we just talked about with Trump being vindicated and so on, and all that's good. And then the bad guys are going to be, going to military tribunals, and people are being arrested. Trust me, they are. We see that across the board. We see big porno sites being taken down. We see sex traffickers being arrested. We see people in CEOs and companies. We see all this across the board. Education system, even the Pope is on a list, I think. There's a list of Hollywood people that are on target here, or as a target, I guess you say, who's, spewing out this horrific stuff and the stuff they're involved with. We're looking at this perfection being played before our eyes. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. Is there a time machine? I don't know. That could be. Okay. The time machine, the Philadelphia experiment, and the other experiments said that the people in certain aspects of the government, and I'm going to say they were probably the deep state, went into the future and changed things in the way they wanted them to be, according to their plan, and changed the future. Are we there now? Does Trump have a time machine? There is a time machine, I do believe. I don't know, am I wackadoodle or what? What do you think? I'm just looking at this. We're in the middle. I don't feel so comfortable with the final outcome that seems to be looming in the future. Where are we really heading? And you know that Kofifi, that little funny mistake, supposedly mistake, that Trump tweeted the word Kofifi quite a while ago, and everybody made fun that he didn't even know how to spell coffee. Well, come to find out that it's a Latin word for "in the end we will win." Kofifi. And I said that to you, right, sis, today? And you said yes, but we
Yep.
will win. How did say it again? Spiritual. We have the spiritual piece here, folks. Right?
Yes, but there's something that I would like, um, there's something that is really interesting to me. If you've watched the movie Atlas Shrugged, if you've gone to look at the Atlas Shrugged 2 and Atlas Shrugged 3, if you haven't seen those, please watch those. And you will see some startling correlations and to what we're dealing with right now. It's something that you need to see. There's always been a good cop, bad cop. Remember that. There's always played it out, the good cop, the bad cop, because we, the people, always have to have a reason to believe in somebody. And they always give us somebody to believe in. I'm not saying that we're right. I'm not saying that we've got all the pieces in the right places. I'm saying that these are things that really need to be thought about, that really need to be considered. We have to keep discernment at the forefront and not wholeheartedly jump in and join with because we want to believe. We need to come at this because we're the ones that matter here. We're the ones that are going to pay the price for anything that happens. We always have been, and we always will be. But you've heard me tell you before that this is our window of opportunity. And it is our window of opportunity. We have a chance to get through this in the right way. But we've got to do it with our eyes open, our minds open, and our hearts open. We have to see what reality really is, and it's not going to be easy. It's not easy. The more you look, it seems the more questions you have. But never stop questioning. Never stop.
And this brings me back to, and we have to always talk about the prophecies and the solutions and the power of love and compassion that we have that can change things beyond our imagining. The prophecies of the fifth world, 1,000 years of peace, the world of chaos, we are in it right now, the fourth world of chaos, and it is ramping up because it does not want to lose its position and power. People are being affected. We can see it just by what we read here about the vitriol, the hatred that was basically being spewed out by the false lies, the false mainstream media, and people that were glommed onto it, believing in it, were stuck in the fourth world of chaos they were creating. The hate. This, you have to get out of that fourth world. That's why we keep saying, when you spew out hate, when you are negative, you are affecting you not only yourself, but you are feeding the dark, and you are stuck in the fourth world of chaos. And the fifth world of 1,000 years of peace is a high frequency. It's enlightenment. It's harmony. It's joy. It's a compassion. This is in our hands, folks. So no matter what they're doing, no matter what any of them are doing, if this is all a game, which I do believe it is a game, if this is the circus that both sides are playing to move us incrementally, innocently, unknowingly into this 2030, this one world order, one world religion, because we believe that the light is winning, the good side is winning. That's what they're telling us, because now we're going to have all the bad guys taken out. Let's not go there. Let's believe in ourselves. Let's connect with Creator Great Spirit. Let's use the power of light and love and compassion. This is in our hands. That's how we're going to shift into the new paradigm, the 1,000 years of peace. That's where we're going. That's where I'm going. I hope you're all going to go with me. That's all I'm saying.
Gaz has got a question in there, sis.
Oh,
Says,
1,000 years of peace is for those who are enlightened. Okay, it's about frequency. Again, we have to remember that we are beings of energy and everything has a frequency. Our vibration, our own words, and our beliefs have a frequency. So if you are using the words that are, joyous and loving and kind and positive, that raises your frequency. You enter into a different vibrational paradigm. Okay, we're talking about a paradigm here, a different frequency of a paradigm where there is that, if you are a peaceful person, peace must begin within us. We must be the loving being. We must be the light. Like Star says, step into the light that you are. And that is so true because that is the vibration. I say step into your center, the still point where nothing can affect you, where nobody can affect you. Nobody will own your mind or your words, where you are in that alignment with the divine source of love and peace. That is where we are. And this is yes. So the 1,000 years of peace is a frequency. Okay. And yes, so the enlightened means being the light within. It's wisdom. It's connection to source, divine source. That's what that's all about. It's a shift into a different paradigm. You could say it's like a parallel experience.
Gaz's question is above that. He says, "You think Trump and company has opened a portal to that peace, the light about to pierce through the dark?"
You think Trump and company has opened a portal to that peace, the light about to pierce through the dark?
It's possible. It's possible. We could be totally wrong.
Yeah, we could be, and that's why we say we're in the middle. We have to, I think Patty and I, what we are doing is giving you both sides, and we are standing here in the middle. I do believe in the power that we have, and that it is all about frequency. They're talking, Q and Serial Brain, they went into the religious mode, quoting the Bible, quoting prophecy, dark to light, and so on. It's very possible that they know about this, that is very possible. I just have to know what I must know for myself, okay? This is all that I'm saying. And we have the prophecies, we have what's going on in the Middle East and the Golan Heights, we have the Third Temple, we have the prophecy of the Rainbow Warriors, we have the prophecy of everything that was created and manifested by the dominator patriarchy rule is breaking up and shattering. And it's all happening. So we have to kind of like get ourselves grounded here, centered, and know what the power is that we have through love and compassion. And that nothing, when we are in that frequency, nothing can affect us, no matter what happens. Nothing. And this is where we have to stand. That's why we say we have to stand in the light. We have to be the light.
Exactly. And don't be mean. Don't be evil.
Don't be mean. I mean, that's a choice. Like many of us say, you could get in a room with a bunch of different people and we all ultimately find out we all want the same thing. And I don't care who is doing stuff that I don't particularly like or I disagree with or who might be really doing bad stuff. I do not hate those people because I don't want to push that frequency out. If I hate somebody and if I spew that out, I'm outside the source. I am outside away from my Creator. I am standing outside of that sacred circle and I am in the vibration of darkness and I am feeding that evil and that darkness. So it's in our hands. It's all in our hands. We are here to do this work. I do believe we came here to do this work at this extraordinary time. To me, it's awesome. Think about that. Think about our being present at this time and what we can accomplish.
Yep. And we are coming up to the top of the hour, and I just want to let everybody know, please don't forget, the Love Bubble is up next, and Lizzie will be there to make sure that we get covered in that nice blanket of love and compassion, which is where we need to go. And I want to thank you guys for at least joining in this conversation. We weren't sure if we were going to, what we were going to do, what was going to happen in the chat. But as usual, you guys amaze me at your ability to come together, even on different sides, and still be here in love and respect for each other. It is truly, truly amazing to me, this family that we have here on PFP. And thank you, Gaz, for creating such a beautiful home. Yes. Okay, another question from Gaz.
Okay.
Well, if this is the case, then I think the dark side is going to push full on, even more so than we already know, to divide and conquer the minds and lives of the people. We may see things ramp up even more from this point onwards. Yes.
I totally agree with you. I expect it too. We've talked about this. That's why we must be very vigilant. We must be strong in our own self, in our spiritual self. Get your foundation really strong. Like get right with your Creator, man. That's what I say. And, get connected with people here of like mind. Don't be drawn to people who are negative, because that's going to take you down into that fourth world of chaos. And that's what you're doing to yourself and your people around you. So yeah, it is going to ramp up, and we're seeing it already. That's evil. That's evil. Evil, and what's been in position, eating people's energies, eating souls, sacrificing, and all that stuff that's going to come out. You people will be surprised, and they're not going to give up so easily. That's why we say, yeah, this is going to ramp up, because what's been in position and power for so long will not give up so easily. We see it. We do.
Yes, we do. And we can expect more. The thing of it is that it's more important that we be conscious of how we're handling this, how we're walking in the light. We can't control what they're doing. We can't control them. We can only control ourselves, what we think, what we feel. If something is said and of this political environment, and we become angry, then we've bought into it. We've bought into the construct. That's our first clue that we need to step back again and breathe and take a new perspective, because we don't have to be part of this construct. We can be together in love and bring about the change that we want. We don't have to side on either side. We have to just be with each other, to side with each other for the benefit of all. This is the power that we have, and we should use it. I mean, it's such a great power. It's amazing to me. I look at this chat room, and there it is. It's there, right for you to see it. It's in your face. Different opinions, different ways of looking at life, yet right here in this room, it's all about the love, Truly blessed. Thank you. And with that said, sis, I'm going to let you close us out, and we'll see you on the other side.
Well, thank you, Pilamai. I just want to give a thank you, a gratitude to the Great Spirit, to Creator, and to all the ancestors who walk with us, and those that have helped us and guided us, and who are really rooting for us on the other side, who really hope. I guess I'd say we are all the hope of our ancestors, watching us and rooting for us to take care of this Mother Earth and take care of each other and come into peace and harmony, to be able to, once again, come into harmony and balance that was originally all of our nations together, one big family here on this Mother Earth. And I feel a great surge, I really do, of hope and joy when I'm doing this show We talk about rough stuff, but we have to, in order to get wise, to get smart, and to strengthen ourselves so we know what is going on. What is it that is happening, and what is it that we are being met with, the challenges, I feel we can meet any challenge when we are in the center, when we are in our heart spirit. Nothing can take us down. And the more we stand together, the stronger we are, so let's be unified in our love and gratitude for the Mother Earth and all of creation. That's all I want to say. And stay tuned for Lizzie and Grizz. I know that you're going to get filled up with love there and get that vibration. That's a good one. And Pilamaya Doksha, we will see you around the campus.
This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to People for People Radio, the voice of truth in Scotland.